Hi Danny, thank you for your time. It's a big event in Essen here and I'm very happy to discuss with you about the game. Can you introduce you for the people who don't know you?
Yeah, my name's Danny Schaeffer. I'm the lead game designer on Star Wars Unlimited. So I'm also one of the original designers who was on the game from the start. For the last 4 years I have been designing Unlimited full-time, yeah.
What is your professional or player background?
Professionally, I have been at Fantasy Flight Games as a card game designer for about a decade now. I started on different card games, LCGs like Game of Thrones, Arkham Horror, Keyforge, before moving on to Unlimited for the last several years. And then as a player, really I got my start, I think, in card games with Magic the Gathering mainly. I played that for many years very heavily. Since then I've played many other card games, of course, and many influences as we continue to design Unlimited.
The set 2 is almost over. Can you describe the first 6 months of the game?
Yeah, we've been really delighted with the first 6 months and how it's gone. First off, just the fan reaction. People seem to really love the game they've taken to it. We've gotten so much positive feedback there. And then as far as the metagame, it's also been really cool to see the way it's continued to shift. Like throughout set 1, it shifted at various points through, Boba and then Control and then different directions. And then when set 2 came out, seeing some new decks as well with, set 2 Han, Kira, Bosk, etc., kind of having a spot in the metagame. So it's been really cool to see.
Have you been surprised by the meta compared to what you imagined?
Yeah, that's a great question because there are some elements that have been very much what we expected and some that have been much more surprising. So again, by the time we were testing set 1 and set 2, we were pretty confident that Sabine would be a good deck, that Boba would be a good deck, that those would be influencing the meta very strongly. And several other decks we expect to be powerful, and they're pretty powerful, right? But then, there have absolutely been surprises. We thought Bosk might be good. We didn't know he was quite as good as he has played out in practice. A few other decks like that where they kind of definitely surprised us with how good they were. So it's been cool, yeah. It's been cool to see we were right on some things, and then other things it's like, oh, that's better than we thought.
Yeah. What kind of use of cards or interaction between cards surprised you? Have you an example about?
I always try to think of a good example. The one we used in set 1 a lot was that we did not know that ECL Steadfast Battalion would be used quite so often. But it makes sense, right? Because you can play it in Boba Fett green, you can play it against Boba Fett, it's perfect. So yeah, that's always the one that sticks out in my mind. It really surprised us to see how often it saw play.
Does art control frighten you for the future?
It's a thing we think about a lot, yeah. We want there, of course, to be different archetypes, for there to be aggro, for there to be mid-range, for there to be some type of control in the metagame. With that said, we know that probably if the metagame shifts too hard towards all my units are getting removed, the games last a really long time, it's not healthy overall. So we think a lot about it, and honestly, especially in the next few sets coming up, it was very much on our mind of making sure that we were pushing different archetypes and different styles of control as well. Control decks that wanted to maybe end the game a little faster than just remove everything, so that we could, again, keep that metagame balance without the super hard control decks that just drag the game out forever. So yeah, it's a thing we think about a lot internally. Yeah.
What's a game designer they like?
That's also a tough question to answer because it changes a lot depending on the day. And also for me, as the lead designer, it's a little bit different than for our other designers. Because I'm honestly just in a lot more meetings, talking with the higher ups to figure out exactly our plans and things like that. But a lot of it is playtesting. We playtest several days a week and just play games against each other, see what the balance is feeling like, play some of the earlier sets, see what draft and sealed feels like, etc. And then also a lot of time just in design meetings. Some are just like 2 people who are mainly on a certain set, like if Joe and John are on set 5, they'll have a lot of meetings, just the 2 of them, to plan what the cards look like, to say, here's some new designs I came up with that I think will make this mechanic shine more, or fill this role in the set, talk through it, design cards, and then a lot of designing on your own as well, just sitting in a room thinking, okay, what's a cool mechanic going to be for the next set? What are some cool cards that could play with that mechanic? and then coming together as a group to talk through everything. So it is very collaborative. You sort of come up with ideas independently, and then we come together, play games, have meetings to talk through what's the best path forward, which cards do we want to keep in the set, what do we want to save for later. It really is. It's a really fun job, really fun creative process.
Seems to be the dream job.
Yeah. I do love it.
We really appreciate the way FFG listens to the players. How does it affect your work?
Oh, sure. Yeah, we do. We always try to keep an eye on what the community is saying, in general, what things they might like, what things we should plan for the future to make people enjoy the game even more. And I do have to give a shout out to Xander, who's our community manager, who spends a ton of time just following social media, following the various podcasts and videos, seeing what people are playing. But everyone on the team is keeping track of it to some degree or other. I'm sure you've probably seen Tyler, who also posts more on social media, interacting with the community. So it very much informs what direction we want to go in certain things. If we see people really like a certain thing, we'll say, okay, maybe we lean into that a little more. Maybe we focus on that more. Or if they don't like something, we say, oh, let's think about why they don't like it. Should we be doing something differently? So it's a big factor, absolutely.
What part do you give to casual play versus competitive gaming?
That's a great question. And there's a few different ways we approach it. One is just that we have several people on the design team, and some of us are much more competitive type of players. We're very focused on tournament play, on what's the strongest card. We have other people on the team who are much more focused on the casual mindset and saying, let's think about having cards in the set that are more aimed at the casual side, that aren't necessarily trying to be the strongest card in the world, that are just trying to be cool, fun, interesting, maybe inspire you to build a really weird deck that might not win a tournament, but that will be fun and different and exciting. And we also just, in general, are very much aware, as we build out every set, that we need obviously some cards could appeal to a lot of different people, but there are, some sections of the card pool where it's like, okay, these are definitely the competitive cards. Over here are some cards that maybe are more casual, more, trying to get you to build a different kind of creative deck. And just like checking in every single set, okay, do we have good things for every different kind of player? So yeah, we do try to think about both sides of that a lot.
What is your prediction for the most unlikely leader? Which leader can surprise you in the future? Maybe on planetary or...
I'm thinking of what the set 3 leaders we've already revealed, because I think some of them have real potential. I'm a big believer in Count Dooku. I think just giving exploit to cards that don't normally have it is a big thing. Getting to play a 6-drop 2 rounds ahead of schedule, 6-drop on 4 or a 5-drop on 3 can really change the game very dramatically. So I hope he ends up being good. I in playtesting played a lot of Mace Windu leader, and I think there are some angles of hero control that maybe haven't been explored because there wasn't a great leader for it yet. But you can, especially with the full set 3 card pool combined with sets 1 and 2, I think there's like some blue-red hero things you can do where you get to play a lot of the good removal, but you also maybe can play some healing, more healing than you get in villain, and really do really well against the aggressive and mid-range decks of the world. So I think Mace has some potential there.
Do you think a player miss a strong leader in set 1 or 2?
I think there are leaders that we thought were strong. It's hard to say that we, as our relatively small team, know better than the whole community of thousands and thousands of players. There are leaders that we thought that we liked better than the community has liked them so far. I think people know Palpatine is pretty good. We really thought he was one of the best leaders, and maybe it just will take time. Set 3 is good for him, of course. But on the plane over, actually, me and Xander were talking about Palpatine seems pretty good. I can't believe he's not played more, especially against some of the mid-range leaders that he can kind of go over the top of.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, Palpatine just goes over the top of a lot of the slower decks. That's the main one. I think there are others too that will improve as more cards come out. That maybe, you know, right now they're decent, but when we get 3, 4, 5, 6 sets in, they'll have more tools. Yeah.
Fluff is very important in
Yes.
card design, such a previous unit.
Yes.
How do you go about designing such card or determine their rarity?
Oh, sure. So Grievous is a great example of what we call a top-down card, where we start with who the character is, what they're about, and say, how can we just like come up with the mechanics that just match the character directly? Grievous, he collects lightsabers. We gave him an ability that lets him play lightsabers and rewards him for doing so. Just started from the flavor, from the fluff, and worked down from there. A lot of cards are kind of in between, where, you know, we have some mechanical ideas, we try to match it to the flavor. It's not quite as direct as Grievous. And as far as rarity, a lot of factors that go into
because
rarity.
Grievous is legendary, but
Yes.
it seems to be not unplayable, but very hard to use
It's
in
narrow.
full potential, you know?
Yeah. So, I would say rarity isn't just power level by any means. A lot of what makes a card legendary specifically versus being rare is just having a very unique or strange or unusual effect. Very splashy effect is what I would say, actually. The line of text, you know, defeat 4 units, very, very splashy. That kind of pushes it up from rare to legendary. And yeah, with Grievous, Separatist trait and 4/4 for 3 is, I think, going to matter. There's kind of a lot of text on there that won't come into play necessarily that often, but that is very good if you pull it off. But yeah, a lot of why Grievous is legendary is just the 2 effects that are really just very unusual. Ignore all aspects and defeat a bunch of units if you jump through a bunch of hoops. So that's kind of what pushed him up there. Obviously, not every legendary is going to be like that. There are other legendaries that are just Lukes and Vaders and just very powerful, efficient cards as well. But there are going to be some that are kind of wacky, like Grievous.
We had Boba in set 2 and set 1 and set 2. Will be wait for young Boba in set 3?
We're going to slow down a little bit with Boba Fett's.
You
there are
very,
more coming
very appreciate
eventually,
Boba
but
Fett.
not every set like it has been. Same with Han Solo, actually. Not Han Solo in every set either.
Since the beginning of the game, we enjoyed discovering official support units. Do you deliberately limit the power of this unit?
In general, yes. And that's another kind of, it's a flavor consideration again, right? Where Admiral Piet or a lot of these people are working off to the side behind the scenes. They're not great in combat. So we do tend to give them more support-oriented abilities rather than just big combat stats or anything. Again, it can depend. There are maybe some officials where it might make more sense, where we'll go a little bit higher on that scale. But yes, in general, we try to orient them that way.
Set 3 seems to have a very different gameplay. Mm-hmm. Do you think this mechanic will be integrated into the current deck? Mm-hmm. Or will there be 2 different kind of decks in the future?
That's a great question, and I think we'll see a little bit of both. I think there will be definitely some decks that are very heavily built around the set 3 mechanics, that are making lots of tokens, either coordinate or exploit, and are mostly set 3 cards, with maybe a few of the powerful cards from set 1 and 2. But I think on the other hand, there will also be some decks that just have a similar game plan from set 1 and 2, that are still the set 1 and 2 leaders, that pick up just a handful of the set 3 cards that work for that deck specifically. Honestly, I think there are plenty of cards in set 3 that can just slot into existing decks and be very solid. You look at a card like R2-D2, just like good stats, useful card selection ability, can pretty easily go into a yellow hero deck, even if it's not built around the rest of the set 3 themes. And I think you'll also see, especially with Coordinate, you'll see a lot of decks that are just going to play the most efficient, cheap units they can get from the first 3 sets. And some of it will be with clones from set 3. but some of it will also just be, we're still going to have Green Squadron A-Wings probably in the deck, good health, good attack, cheap unit. Maybe we'll have R2-D2 from set 1 in the deck just as a 4 HP 1-drop. So I think you'll see decks that kind of, even if they're built towards the set 3 theme, they're going to use some of the good set 1 and 2 cards.
The next question was about your favorite card leader, but you already answered that question. Except if you want to talk about another leader you love in the set 3?
Yeah, I will. Well, let me think about this for a second. So yes, I did already talk about Dooku and Mace, who are my favorite set 3 revealed leaders. There is another leader that's unrevealed in set 3 that might be my favorite of all of them.
Oh. Do you know the number?
I can tell you. I cannot tell you. Well, I can tell you actually. I'll tell you the colors. It's the other red hero leader.
Okay.
That has not yet been revealed, and this leader it's a very unique style, and it makes you look at the card pool differently. There are certain types of cards, certain units that you look at in one light in sets 1 and 2, and then you see this leader and you're like, oh, okay, that's different. That's different. So I'm very excited for it.
It's open new opportunity about cards we already know.
Yeah, and I don't want to, it's not going to completely change those cards, but it'll make you look at certain stat lines on cards and say, oh, that's suddenly a lot better.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, I'm excited for that later.
What is your favorite deck so far?
My favorite deck so far, I didn't have much luck with it today, but I've been playing Fennec with the blue shield base. And it's just really fun. There's so many cool tricks you can do. You can really control the board pretty well against aggro with the ambush from Fennec. Just your opponent plays Battlefield Marine, you ambush in a Greedo and just trade right away. But also you're playing a lot of cheap, high power units, so you can pressure decently well against control decks as well. So there's a ton of cool interactions in the deck. Fennec ambushing in a pirated Starfighter is really cool because you can ambush first, and then if the Starfighter is still alive, you can return itself to its hand. So you can just keep defeating space units over and over. Rose Tico ambush, where you get the experience right away. Ambush as a 4/8 is pretty great. And just random cards like Rogue Operative, the Saboteur Raid 2, 2/4. Extremely good when you can ambush it and guarantee you get the raid and saboteur right away. A lot of people, you have a 4 HP shielded unit and you think you're safe, and you'll ambush it in and take it out. And then just going up, to cards like Enfys Nest and Luke Skywalker at the top end. Yeah.
If you want to share the list, you can.
Absolutely. Yeah. I have it sitting right next to me.
We can add it in description for viewers.
Fantastic. Yeah, a lot of fun.
No, let's talk about reveal. Thanks to Xander on FFG to provide us this reveal, and this card is Clone. It's a very impressive card, and it was a shock when we received this reveal. Maybe this card is too strong, maybe it's broke the game, but no, because you seems to have done a very, very precise design, and it's could you talk about this card?
Yeah, so this is a card that, as you say, it's a lot of potential, and a card that, it's some wild things you can do. So we spend a lot of time in playtesting on this. We had versions that were even cheaper than this, that we realized, no, that's too cheap. We can't do that.
Yeah.
But the ability to come in and copy any unit you have already, and not just that, any leader in play, non-leader, non-vehicle unit in play, so you can even potentially copy an opponent's thing. It's incredible.
Yeah. Can we clone a clone card? If my opponent play a Vader and I play clone to have a Vader and I kill his Vader, can I play a second clone to clone my card?
That is a rules question we talked about a lot, and I'm hesitant to answer it without a rules expert on camera. I think the answer is yes.
Oh,
but,
good.
Because so many of the unique characters in the game, the fact that lets you have 2 copies of them is kind of crazy, right? Like you normally are only supposed to have 1 Vader in play ever. Suddenly having a second Vader or a second of, I mean, a lot of potential cards, a second Avenger, it can really change the game dramatically. And it's, yeah, it's something we, again, had to watch a lot in playtesting and be like, okay, this unit seems fine. Is it still fine if you can clone it? And like balance around that. And eventually there's a 7 cost for clone, which seems fair to, you know, it's not so cheap that you can do it incredibly often, but it's still a pretty good deal on a lot of cards. Yeah.
Do you think 2 Snoke on the board is enough? Because maybe
2 Snoke's pretty good.
Yeah,
that's one of the best
Snoke
ones.
And 2 clones, maybe it's a good idea to control the board.
You can never have too many Snokes, right?
Yeah.
What if your opponent plays a 7/7? You need that 4th Snoke to really deal with it.
When you design a card after this card, do you check, oh, this card can be too powerful if I play clone? Does it affect the future of card design?
That's a great question. It does actually. We have, I think in every set since we designed clone, had at least 1 card come up in playtesting where we said, wait, if you clone this, it might break the game in some way. And so we had to then adjust that card a little. Usually it's a small adjustment. You can say like, I mean, it depends on the card, but you have to make sure it doesn't like just stack with itself such that it you know, again, creates a broken interaction. But yeah, it is something that comes up regularly of, will this card break the game if you make a clone of it? Again, not most legend, you know, most unique cards is fine. They just, you know, yeah, it's good to have 2 Snokes, but yeah, it's 2 Snokes. There are some where you realize, oh, if this can affect itself, you're suddenly going, you know, making a crazy combo that could end the game immediately, and we have to stop that. Or create, like, there are loops potentially you could create with a unique and a clone, and yeah, without getting into too many details of future cards, I guess. There are some loops we had to break up because clone existed. Yeah.
Okay, thank you for your time, Danny. It was a pleasure to discuss about the game, and I hope to meet you in another Essen Spiel.
Yes, thank you so much. I'm enjoying Essen immensely, and I hope you have a great Essen too. Thank you.
Bon, bah, on espère que vous avez aimé cette interview autant que nous on l'a aimé avec cet incroyable reveal. Et puis et Danny qui adore partager. Et j'espère que vous avez autant aimé ce moment que nous. À bientôt.